Hello.
Hello? Adam, are you there?
Hello.
Hello?
Good morning.
Can you hear me, Adam?
I've got YouTube Live going, and we'll get ourselves started here with my little slidey things, just so that I got that stuff stepped
Adam,
away.
can you hear me okay? I'm using a headset.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay.
So we're recording live on YouTube. Attendees may use that on social media and chat and repaste it and all that good stuff. The way this works is we're open to challenges, attend at a whim, and connect the topics to our story. And and also I just use this as a low maintenance thing for me, so the slides are more just to kind of keep me on track and kind of guide the conversation. Topic intro, greeting, you guys already know this. And the challenge question was, how do you predict what to do with biz right now? Welcome to Adam's Friday Flow. I'm working from the middle of my living room, which is an unusual spot, so the lighting and stuff is different. I don't know that I like this whole like dark face thing, but I'll mess around with that while we're going here. So economy in Albuquerque, this is a question that has been on a lot of our minds, but it came up by Nick Taylor, and how do we figure that out? I'm really not sure. There's a lot of places where people talk about what's going to be coming to Albuquerque. Like there's Netflix and some space stuff, and so I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say and what you know about it, and I'll share my limited knowledge about this sort of thing. This is from last week, and so do our intros. Hey, Phil, great job last week putting the HTTP and the whole thing. It worked last time when I clicked on your link.
Yeah, I won't be doing it again today because I'm driving again. So,
but you got it just right, and so that was great. And then when you do introduce yourselves, so yeah, paste in chat if you have a link that you'd like to have in the background. And then that's last week. And then just do your name, brief story, and who your ideal client is, kind of thing. So tell us a little about what you do, kind of thing. So I can click on this because it's my webpage right there. And I'm going to switch share. No. Oh, is this showing? Copy of flow, right? Yeah. All right. That should be fine. Okay. This is my simple web page. I'm looking forward to possibly updating this next year, but I'll still have the same domain. And this is, look at that, all the standbys. Isn't that exciting? And Joey, do you recognize this guy?
That must have been Halloween. I think that was JJ.
Yeah, that is JJ. I do recognize him now.
That wasn't
That's
Joey.
great.
That was JJ.
Yeah. So
JJ had the craziest
my big
costume
thing is
ever.
I'm trying to. That's great. So this is one of the talks a while ago. We get to do all kinds of cool stuff on here, and I'm glad that we have a light personality. We're doing it, and that's kind of the whole thing I try to make for businesses too, is having sort of a light personality that's trying to make things happen and try stuff out, and also just like make it easier for them to go. That's the big thing I do. So I'm gonna go with Phil, Annie, Joey, and there is somebody else here, but I don't have like a name on their thing.
It was Nicholas.
So,
Nicholas Taylor. Nicholas is online.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
I could see it. Yeah.
Hi, Nick. All right, so Mr. Phil.
Phil Wilton. I guess most people know me. Um, mainly a strategist and National Science Foundation mentor, and soon to be published author on a book, 5 Moves to Checkmate, Building Data-Driven Strategies. And that's my existing website that Adam's kind of brought up for me.
But it's going to change.
They're all the companies that I've worked for or been contracted to. The biggest one being UEFA, the European Union Football Association, and the smallest one being a fast food startup in Kabul in Afghanistan.
Cool. Annie.
Yeah, Annie Irizarry, CEO and founder of Core Community Housing in sustainable community development and real estate investing, corporate housing, and those kinds of things. And so former project manager and Scrum Master consultant. So that's who I am. And I'm still in a consulting world every now and again. So I still do that part-time, semi-retired. So that's what I do. And I'm still being sought out as a consultant here and there, but trying to phase out of that one and semi-retire, if there's ever such a thing.
That's the first time you told me that. That makes sense.
Well, I was a technology project manager for over 20 years, and so you never really get out of it. People still reach out to me and ask for my services every now and again. But, they want my services, but they can't necessarily afford it. So not at $150 an hour, but because that's really the going rate for the kind of talent that I offer. That's really the going rate.
Yeah, got a lot of background. Cool.
Yep.
And Joey.
Morning, everyone. Joey Gutierrez with the Albuquerque Chamber of Commerce. I am a membership engagement specialist. JJ, I'm sure if you guys have seen him, we've talked about it. He's my manager, so we work closely together. And yeah, we've had a lot going on this week. Even today, just to let you guys know, at 12 o'clock there is a Choose One initiative, or Choose Us, with the city and the mayor and our president to kind of talk about how the community can make a difference during this time by just choosing one thing we can focus on each, and putting it into action. So there's a lot going on. We're excited for the holiday, excited for 2021, excited to support everybody and anybody we can, that to help local businesses.
So yeah, yesterday I was at the event you guys did, the State of the Chamber, and then there's also a training today. Yeah, there's also a training you're doing today.
There is.
And is it the same time as this other event you just mentioned?
No, so our El Portal is at 10 o'clock, and then it goes till noon, and then from 12 to 12:30 it's a public engagement with the mayor and our president. And yeah, so and then the State of the Chamber is of course, but there's a lot of information, a lot of time that's coming up. Lots of opportunity coming into New Mexico. It's lots of dollars, which is good, but it's going to be crazy if they're talking hundreds of millions of dollars.
What's this Albuquerque Mayor's Energy Challenge? Is that the thing you guys are going to be doing today, or?
No, today is the Choose One. So I don't know if you guys have seen the commercials for the Choose One. They've kind of been popping up everywhere, and then the advertising where it says Choose One Albuquerque. It's kind of been the city's campaign. That's what this is today. And our president's going to be talking on it because we're partnering with the city for it. But it's just a public engagement campaign to get the community involved again. Talking about how we can make a difference, things like that. So that's really what it is. It's 30 minutes. So I don't know exactly what they're going to be talking about, but I know that is kind of the basis of it is how the community can get involved going into 2021, because there is talks of some cool things happening next year. You know, there's pretty optimistic about at least by summer we should be able to start doing events again.
All right. So Mayor's Energy Challenge is at 21. I don't understand. Canto
What I
de,
can do,
okay.
if you put your guys' email in chat while we're talking here, I will go ahead and send, because I think it's an invite. I'm pretty sure that the emails that we're sending out, but we would love to have you guys on. The more the merrier, obviously. But
Okay.
yeah, they sent it as an invite and then they're gonna broadcast it later. But yeah, if you guys want to tune in at 12, I will send you that invite.
I'll put that in right now. So
Perfect.
in this view, I've got to figure out how my stuff is. Nick, are you there? All right. Well, Nick might join us in a bit, but we got to figure out how to find my way around in Zoom while I'm trying to share the screen.
Yeah, Nick's on mute, so
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you can unmute him.
Well, I could, but if he can, then he should. I'd hate to say, like jump in and like he's wrestling with a cat or something.
Oh,
All right, so I tried to open this up. So where's my chat? Oh, it's hidden. So Zoom is one of these fun things where you're
by
trying
the
to.
way, the Zoom at the 1 Million Cups worked for me last time. It finally did work.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah,
You're able to
so
switch
it was
from
good.
room
It was
to
all
room.
good. It was awesome. You know, when it works, it's awesome. Fantastic.
All right. So I'll send that there. Email. Cool. Yeah. So that there seems to be, so the future of the future of Albuquerque's economy. Like when Nick mentioned it a while ago, I was like, well, that's a cool topic. It's something that I like, I think is a huge topic. And so the thing I like about this is that this is a kind of a playground to sort of talk about it and try and figure out what kind of things are happening. So who has any insights on what's happening with Albuquerque economy?
Well, if anybody watched the State of the Chamber last night, there's a
Yeah.
lot going on. A lot of stuff I heard for the first time too, but we kind of had ideas. I had an idea, but when things started to finalize, that the fact that we're ranked in the top 5 for the Space Command Center, I think is huge, because we actually have a huge shot, or a good shot, of getting that here. That will be big. That'll be over 1,000 jobs.
All right.
And then with Netflix, obviously that's going to provide a lot more jobs. NBC Universal is going to be providing a bunch of jobs. There's a lot of different programs coming here with grants. So there's the economy's looking bright. It's a little scary, because my biggest concern with Albuquerque and New Mexico in general is we never really faced the infrastructure for growth like that. Rapid growth, and I know we can handle it as a people, but as an infrastructure, I just want to see how that's going to turn out, because we all want to see things improve and everything, but too much too fast can happen. I'm a strong believer that we'll get through it, but we've seen it happen before.
And something I'd like to, on that note, that I really appreciated Keller saying yesterday, was he's saying, everyone keeps on talking about all these businesses coming in and creating like this wonderful thing for us. And he says, we want people to come in, and that's good, but we have, like he said, we have the answers. We are our answer. We have great people here. And so that's a good point, is like, you got to name the problem in order for us to fix it. And if the way we're going to solve it is making that infrastructure, that's insightful. Something I didn't know before.
Yeah, what happens with this is, when I was living in New York, the birth of Global Foundries, which is the world's third largest semiconductor foundry, was moving into New York. and they get a lot of tax benefits for getting into winning the business to go into New York. But along with that, you do get supply chains, and Global Foundries and its supply chains actually force infrastructure projects to manifest themselves in the state. So, Global Foundries employs something around up in upstate New York, 5,000 people. But the supply chain is also enormous. It equals about the same. And then you get big companies like Applied Materials and Lam Research. They want to build, they want to take headquarters over there because it's such a big customer. And people like Netflix and the studios and the space projects are all going to have that kind of infrastructure that are going to come in, all those kind of supply chain people coming in, and the infrastructure will come with that because there'll be more revenue coming into the state in taxes. So it's a knock-on effect. It does take time, but it's a knock-on effect.
I think you hit it at the end there. It does take time. I think one thing that's held Albuquerque, New Mexico back is that thinking of, can we do this? And then we give a lot of pushback. We can do this, but it is going to take time. You're right. You're completely correct in that, especially for us. But something, and the State of the Chamber that we're talking about is on our Facebook. So if you guys want, get some time, it's a couple hours, but it's like a good hour and a half, but it's very informative on what they said. But Albuquerque there is projected to be the premier medium-sized city for business here in the next couple years. How Austin took off, things like that. They're predicting that for us with everybody that wants to come in and all the opportunities that are coming in, which is big. But New Mexico likes to stay New Mexico. And like say Albuquerque. So it's going to be interesting watching how everyone interacts and, how it works. But it is a good thing. It is definitely a good thing. But time's going to figure it out.
Yeah, I think you're right. There's going to be some problems initially because, I've lived in San Francisco. I've lived in Florida, in St. Petersburg and Tampa, and I've lived in New York. And when I come to New Mexico, like just under 2 years ago, it's just a different world. It's a sleepy town compared to those high infrastructure places. Now, I'm not talking about New York. I'm talking about upstate New York, and even upstate New York is 4 or 5 times the size of what Albuquerque is, if not more. It's got to take itself from being a sleepy, not backwater, but a sleepy town into bringing itself to the forefront with all these industries that are coming in, and they are advanced industries, so that's going to make a huge effect.
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting because of the fact that it just doesn't move as fast. The government is slow here, right? It doesn't move into the
we found that out. We found that out, Annie, with Valencia County. I mean,
right? It just
but
doesn't.
once we got them going, they got going.
Right, and I think that's part of the reason. And let's be honest. Tesla pulled out of here. Tesla was going to move into New Mexico, but they moved out because of the reason that it just wasn't here for Tesla. I mean, if you remember, even Microsoft was supposed to be here.
Oh,
there was a lot of opportunities that New Mexico missed out on. New Mexico could have been the next Silicon Valley, for heaven's sakes.
And it could turn into that. You're right though, because if you drive, where is it? Past Moriarty is where like the Google building was, I think, or Microsoft. I forgot which, but it's a kind of a waste of money to build that there because it took too long to develop and it took too long for our government to do anything around it. And they're like, we're going to take off.
Right. That's what I mean. If they want to be, in the same playing field as Silicon Valley and as, Seattle, Washington. But you know what? If you want to be in that same playing field, then you need to play in that same sandbox. Until you do, then you're not, right? If you want to be in that same platform as them, then you need to move in the same way they move. And until they do, it's just not going to happen. If you want to stay like Albuquerque, then you stay like Albuquerque. That's it. You know,
And you
with
know, you bring up a great point. I always look at the freeway as kind of my example of how why Albuquerque stays the way it is. Um, when we needed the freeway as a big project like 20 some years ago to build all those overpasses and stuff, and it was a big undertaking, and you would expect at the time that they were planning for the future for as much traffic that can come through here, but they literally built it just to support what was here. And now we're looking at having to redo all of it, um, because that was the thinking is, well, we just kind of want to keep it this way, keep out, we want growth in Albuquerque, but we want it just for New Mexicans and Albuquerqueans. We don't want it for anybody else. And that's what it feels like. And I think there's been,
right, exactly.
people don't want other people coming in and raising the cost of living and the housing market and things like that. But we're going to have to take a risk.
Exactly. I mean, if you want to grow like Texas or California, then you got to grow like that state. If you don't, and you want to stay like New Mexico and keep it to that size, then that's that's where it ends. It's never going to grow any bigger than what it is. At
And
some point,
it feels like that's the path they're going. Hi, this is Nick, by the way. It feels like that's the path, not just Albuquerque, but New Mexico is going down. There's a lot of people who say, we don't want to be like Texas. We don't want to be like California. We want to be our own thing, but no one knows what that is, or doesn't
right?
seem to know what that is.
What it is,
The
it's like
it's a
a native
campesino
New
mentality.
Mexican.
It really is.
Yeah, it's a native New Mexican mentality. Like I know a lot of families. My family's been here forever, but I was on a call yesterday and the person told me, my family's been here for 500 years. Like we are New Mexico, like a lot of other families here. And we don't want to change that. We want the money. We want the money, economic growth with that, but we don't want changes to happen otherwise.
Right.
And we can't have our cake and eat it too when it comes to that. If we want that stuff to come here, we're going to have to realize that there's going to be some changes for all, but it'll be good changes. I mean, we're not going to be pushed out of housing and stuff. There's going to be more jobs. It's going to raise a lot of good things. I just think the city and the state government needs to do a good job of calming everybody's nerves and showing us the plan so we can follow it and just trust that, it's going to turn out okay. Because that's New Mexicans just get scared that we're going to lose New Mexico. That's really what it boils down to. And anybody who comes in from anywhere else, they don't understand that mentality. And it's like, we've kept it the same way for hundreds of years. We're probably the only state that can say that. But you can marry the two, the culture and the future. And I think that's where we need to be.
Yep, exactly. Until they realize that it isn't going to change. Like you said.
I think one of the things that is strong I find it is strong in New Mexico, and probably just a little bit stronger than I saw in New York, is the entrepreneur side of it. Now, I may be not 100% correct, but of all the different entrepreneurial organizations or foundations or groups, that I think there are many more. I see many more, and I don't know why that is in New Mexico in this area than I saw when I was in upstate New York, in the capital of New York. So I think this country's been built on and is still built on the small medium business. And they're going to be pivotal to the supply chains for, the Netflix and the other cinema group or filmmaking group that's going to come in, and for the space projects, they'll be pivotal in getting that grounding, that base foundation established. So I think I see that as a positive thing.
Wow, that's cool. You guys throwing all that stuff around. I'm like, that was great to listen to. Don't stop it now. There's just so much I don't know about on this economy stuff. and what's going on, I hear the headlines, and hearing about that deep stuff, I wonder, especially with how big tourism used to be for us, and hopefully still is, of course, but COVID has done an interesting thing to that. I liked yesterday how the Hispano VP, she said, how does Hispano Chamber of Commerce spell COVID?
Oh,
They spell pivot.
yeah. We've had a
but so that was, I thought that was a really great way to, like, because I mean, we have a lot of options when we hit a crisis, and one of them is to just change and deal with it. And I thought that was a great message. Nick, you used to work with Meow Wolf, and that was a huge draw here, and we had a whole bunch of artistic people, and this is kind of Santa Fe, but we also were trying to get into the arts here in New Mexico or in Albuquerque too. And I'm curious where that's going to go, because we're talking about these big fancy things, and I'm wondering what effect that'll have on our tourist and artsy sort of angles too.
I think what you just mentioned is pretty important, because one of the things that I've noticed about, even if I wasn't a former Meow Wolf employee, one thing I've noticed about Meow Wolf and companies of the like are pivoting is hard. You're very focused on major markets. You're very focused on going with the flow and finding a plan that sticks and helps you reach your goals for investment. But when something like COVID hits, what do you do about your only open exhibition in Santa Fe? No one can go to it. So what are your revenue streams? How are you, besides investment, how are you surviving? And I think I've seen that all over New Mexico. How is Mexico surviving beyond tourism, beyond Netflix, beyond oil and gas? There's no legalization of recreational marijuana. There's huge money there. It feels,
mention that.
Just piggybacking off of what we've been saying, it's really hard for New Mexico to pivot. And I hope it's not that way forever. But it's, if you take Santa Fe, for example, you can't drive in Santa Fe. Santa Fe is not a town built for cars. People are driving on those streets, but those aren't car streets. Those are
because they're not wide enough.
Yeah, and they don't have any kind of direction, and there's a lot, like, you're just constantly turning in Santa Fe. There's not a whole lot of straightaways besides Rios.
You know what, Nick, that's a very interesting point you've made, because I'm sitting here thinking, Santa Fe, my wife and I have discovered Santa Fe in 2020, okay? And I have to say, it is a great town, all right? Every time we go up there, we find some new nooks and crannies and places to see that we never saw before. And it really is very cute. And I'm used to those roads being like that, because I'm from Europe. I'm from England. I can drive from where I used to live in England just down the road to any small towns and little hamlets, and all the roads are like that. And so we're used to driving I'm used to driving in those environments. That's not, as you said, Nick, that's not an American environment to drive in. But Santa Fe to me is such a cute place. It has an awful lot to offer, and to the world. I mean, it's just an awesome place to go visit. It really is.
No, I agree. I've lived here my whole life. My family's from, up north. We're New Mexican through and through. There's no other state we're from. And I still find new things in Santa Fe every time I go up there. It's a nice break from Albuquerque. You got the big city, and then you can drive to Santa Fe and you get the ambiance. I think
but that's the thing, Joe. The Albuquerque isn't a big city. Albuquerque to me is just a really big town.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a city.
Yeah.
San Francisco's a city, Upstate New York is the city. St.
Yeah.
Petersburg and Tampa are cities. There's a national gauge that you can that I don't know if you know this, but there's a national gauge for IKEA. All right, IKEA will only move into an area where there is 1 million people or more. So what does that tell you about Albuquerque?
Right.
Yeah, no, we're not there. I guess for New Mexico, it's a big city. I should rephrase. That's the big city in New Mexico, and even from the small towns around, they're like, "Oh, we're going to move to the city," and it's usually it's Albuquerque that they're talking about. But Santa Fe, I love Santa Fe. I love northern New Mexico. I love Albuquerque. But we were talking earlier about the small business here in New Mexico, and yeah, we're predominantly run by small business. I think it's something like 75% of the businesses here are 50 employees or less. And on a national level, they're kind of looking at us because they see New Mexico's business structure and economy as basically their business structure as what the United States is going to look like here in the next 20 years, where it's going to be 75 to 80% small business entrepreneurs, and it's going to be minority owned. So we're constantly hearing on our end at the chamber from a national level on it. What are you guys doing to work with small businesses there? What are you doing to support this? Because there's a good chance we're going to see that nationally here in the future, and we need to know how to work with it and how to boost the economy, how to promote small business, how to promote local business, entrepreneurs, because that's the future. We're seeing it more and more places where people are just venturing out on their own and starting their own thing. So it's interesting that we're being looked at now because we are kind of a melting pot, so to speak, and we have a ton of different businesses, and they're all small.
Yeah, there was when I was reading in the Alumni Lobo paper, there was an article that someone had published some sort of big text, and in that tome, one of the highlights they took out of it was that Latino entrepreneurism or Hispanic entrepreneurism is like increasing dramatically in the nation, and majority of them are like single owner businesses.
It is, and it's something cool that we get to see because people are thinking outside the box now, and they're taking charge of their own financial lives. There's a lot, but if we can learn how to support them here, and that's what the chamber's big focus is this year and going into 2021, we're going to get creative. We're going to work with a lot of people, and hopefully it spreads.
Yeah, and I wonder why. Because another thing too they mentioned about this year of COVID-19 is that people last recession, right? They said what's going on is that people sort of like drew in and didn't do much, but this time there's a whole bunch of entrepreneurism like just sort of blossoming during this time. And I wonder what's causing that. What's the big difference between this one to last time that we had a problem?
I think a lot of people learned that they wanted to take control, or they figured out they want to take their financial situation. And so this was a big opportunity. They saw last time what happened, and a lot of people didn't do anything, and they lost their jobs, and it hurt them. But this time around, they saw an opportunity, and that's when you can see an opportunity during a time like this, it kind of gives you hope, that where people's mindset is. Because honestly, it was a very sad time. This has been hard on everybody, and I've been more optimistic than a lot of people because I see a lot of creative thinking and outside the box thinking, and I've just seen people grow and blossom during this time, and it's been amazing because it gives me hope for the future. More small businesses, people are taking control of that. We're also learning how to promote those. We're also learning how to do it virtually. Marketing, everything. Once we get through this, there's nothing that should really set us back. We're able to handle it both in person and virtually now, and it's taken creative thinking and people just wanting to take control of their financial situation.
Yeah, I wonder. There's I know that there's a lot of companies or a lot of people built around encouraging people to do entrepreneurism and things, and I wonder how much of that existed last time, and if that's an infrastructure that's occurred. And I just don't know what the big difference is. But that the other thing is too is that we kind of, it was like this was something that was broadcast, like everyone's gonna change, like everything's gonna change, as opposed to last time it was like, oh my goodness, what's happening? What are we gonna do? I think maybe that also the sense of unity in this created people's more a sense like, well, everybody's got to deal with it. So I wonder. Those are some interesting things.
Those great points.
Yeah, I keep on trying to find this one thing, but I keep getting derailed with other stuff. The Great Chase was a cool event that someone put together. All right, Amazing Chase, Albuquerque. Oh, the Amazing Chase. Wanting to see if I could find that people came up with it. Outback team building. The Amazing Chase. I saw this when I went to Activate New Mexico event one time. This was brought up, and I'm trying to find that if this is the one. So November 14th. Yeah, so this is the thing. So this was talking about ingenuity of people. This was something that came up. Albuquerque Tourism Sightseeing Factory. And this is one of the ways that they were shifting. They were I don't know what happened to it because they said it's postponed, but I don't know when the next one will be or if that's going to happen. But that was kind of a cool thing that someone was coming up with that was solving the future.
Mm-hmm. And tourism's huge here. It's taken a hit. It's our third largest industry. And I can't imagine the hospitality and tourism, what they're going through right now. They're going to take a lot of support next year. But if things get better next year, it's going to explode the minute it happens. The minute people are able to travel, it's going to explode. And New Mexico is, people come from all over to see. That's what makes us great is we have that factor where if you want to see what kind of the old West was, we can still show you that in many ways. So people will come see that. And with that, our economy, and I honestly think, if you're not from this state and you're bringing small business here, I can't thank you enough for that because it's showing us a different option and it's showing us how to operate differently because we need that here. So small business is great, local business is great, but it's, people that come in from other places, states, countries, and bring their small businesses here. I love it. I absolutely love it because it teaches us something and it teaches us how to operate differently. People have experience in New York. We don't have that here and we need that here. So I can't thank you guys enough for that.
That's great. Yeah. Everyone often talks about these big businesses, right? Because they're just such big movers and shakers in the media. And but the small business apparently is, I don't know, 85% of the employee and business workforce. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that we often, I wonder, one of the reasons that we forget that is because it is so dispersed and hard to, it's not as chewy when you try to make media. And also, especially now because of COVID, a lot of local news stuff has lost funding because they hadn't quite figured out how to handle the internet. well, that's a big thing too. Is like, how are we going to use the internet? So there's tech and space, tech, space, film. Okay, that's up here. And then tourism. And this is really great for me, this topic, because it's just bigger than I'm accustomed to thinking about as far as what I can do. There's something we haven't talked about too is agriculture. And I don't know if it's been affected much. We still talk about green and red, right? It's but there's a particular resource that I think is amazing, and it was started by NMSU professor, and it's basically this way that let me pull this up. And I guess maybe Albuquerque isn't really an agriculture place. I'm not too sure. Considering it's a spread out town, maybe you consider it that. But I'm going to mention this. Regenerate. There we are. So I heard this guy talk when I was a teacher and at an organic farming conference, and he pointed out like there's this really basic way that we could do basically soil stuff, and it was well, this is all good, but I wanted to do the bioreactor. See if about Johnson Su. So his name is David C. Johnson, and he designed this thing called a Johnson Su bioreactor. And what happened is he used to really buy into that fertilizers, like commercial fertilizers, were the only real way to make a farm really productive. But what he found out instead was that there's another way that you could actually make your farm more productive than a rainforest if you did like basically built this $30 thing out of some stuff you can get at Home Depot, and fill it with a bunch of carbon matter, and then and set it around. It sits for about 8 months, and afterwards, there's so many microbes and spores in there that you just inoculate your farm with it. And what happens is, I mean, there's upkeep, which is probably the tougher part because our industry isn't built that way yet, especially in its mentality. The upkeep is that you need to have cover crops, the crops that you put over the land. And so this thing is pretty amazing because it's simple and yet so powerful. And the reason it's so powerful is because, like I said, after using this process over a certain amount of time in his test cases, and in Australia, someone else started doing. Oh, this thing's talking. I don't want to. Anyway, so he and his wife are the ones that basically came up with this. His wife is a real estate agent, but this is what it kind of looks like. And the big idea is you're trying to get microbes in there to grow in this carbon matter. And the limiting factor is if you're using like compost, you have to turn it over. But in this case, it's static. So the fungal can get bigger. So it's fungal bacterial stuff going on. And having that air in there is the big thing. And so this video shows you how to build it and with these materials. And, so it's so easy to do. And this is him talking. And I heard him in person. I didn't even know about this stuff. But I'll grab some of the clips. And this is one of the reasons why it's really cool is because microbes have been changing our atmosphere for the past, eons. And for us to, think that we're coming up with something new by trying to build these huge machines that are just expensive, make more carbon in the air and all this other stuff, it's just kind of ridiculous. Whereas this kind of thing, like this little graph is about like how the air changed because of bacteria. And then here we are, this little bit up here. And, this bacteria and fungal matter have been here for so long doing all this change. And yet we get desertification and all that other stuff in our farms and all that because we keep on stripping them of this material that actually changes our atmosphere. So it's something that's not talked about really often, I think, possibly because it's such a simple answer and it's just not the way the economy is angled. Anyway, that was my really big and excited rant. There's he says all kinds of examples of how this has amazing effects, that this guy only did 1.5 years of the process, and he's saying if it gets even more advanced, and so this is like what it was, the ones that he wasn't treating with it, and this is one that he was treating with it for cotton, and it's just, anyway, I could go on, and I'm really excited about it, but that's another angle. Maybe we could use Albuquerque to really make this happen. We're getting.
Yeah. Adam.
Yeah.
Interesting on the agriculture. One of the things that Annie and I are looking at is vertical farming. It may to know that one of the, I think it's the third smallest country in Europe, is one of Europe's biggest exporters of agricultural food, and that's the Netherlands, Holland, because they perfected vertical farming and farming on buildings as well, that they grow so much food that they are one of the chief exporters in Europe to the world. So you don't just necessarily need a lot of fertile land to be able to develop a lot of food and agriculture. There's technology farming, and there are a number of big vertical farms that Annie and I have found in the US that are already established. That's another way of dealing with agriculture in a desert state.
Huh. In a desert, yeah. So vertical farming. And what do they do to make it work? Do you know? Is it just that it's vertical, or is there something more? And of course, I'm looking for them to say.
Yeah, so they're like, what Annie and I are looking at is inside shipping containers. But what they do in Holland is they actually build vertical up as far as they want to go farms. So you have all these different shelves of food, or grow it on the side of the building, inside the building, and they have all the air conditioning, they have the right air temperature, they have the right humidity, they have the right water usage, bacteria or infestations from outside because it's all enclosed. And if you can farm straight up instead of straight, you can produce a lot more, because you can run the farms 24/7, every day, every week, every month. They just keep going.
And that's one of the powers of his method, and it's called the BEAM method, biological something, microbes, and the idea is that you keep the soil regenerating and keep turning carbon matter into the soil and it's funny because in the organic world, and I don't know much about this organic world, I dabbled in it, but there's a big push for no-till, which means that you don't disturb the soil, so the fungal matter and microbial stuff can actually continue to grow. And he's challenged by them, and he says, well, I'm not stuck by an idea. He says, I'm seeing what works, and if no-till isn't working as well, then maybe no-till is not the answer. And so what he does is he encourages the farmers to till in the cover crop, whatever they put over their farm, their fields, and you till that in back into the soil, so it's feeding the microbes, which are what create the nutrients for the plant, or create the nutrients in the ground for the plant. Most of the nutrients plants get is from the sky because they're made of carbon.
It's a similar idea in vertical farming. You're not tied to the elements of nature, so you don't have the environmental issues of disasters and drought and all the things that traditional farming experiences. So what you have is a very controlled environment with vertical farming that you can control, and you can recycle. Your water is less water consumption because you've got a vertical farming that you can control with technology and hydroponics and aquaponics, and you've got the 24/7 of, you're not tied to the elements, so you can grow year round. You're not tied to the seasonal growth that a traditional farming in the past has been sort of the downside of farming, and the land. You're not tied to the natural land elements of, we can grow at this time, and we're tied to the earth growth. We can do this in sort of an artificial way, and we can control that, and we can recycle the water, and we can grow 24/7 at that point. And in a 40-foot container, you can have as much 5 acres of output, produce a 5-acre output on a 40-foot container. I mean, that is transformational from a farming perspective. And your supply chain can then be local. You're not tied to delivery from someplace else. You can keep it local. I mean, that's huge. Imagine, keeping that local, and imagine that would solve hunger in all kinds of parts of globally, right? We no longer have the hunger problem that we would have in some remote part of some location. If we can ship a 40-foot container and they can be self-sustaining in some country for food supply, for fresh vegetables and fruits that they couldn't ordinarily have in some country in India or some other place in Pueblo land, even right in New Mexico. Let's not go very far, right? In a vertical farming urban location. That redefines farming as we know it.
That's cool. So that I really enjoyed the topics we got to hit. I like this big thinking, and because we are the supply chain, each little bit along the way, and I think that's a huge thing for making all this happen. And the figuring out where it's going to go is exciting. This is the time that I'd like people to have their ask, and I'm a little curious if Nick has any further updates on his business that he mentioned last time, that there was some stuff going on. So if you wanted to share that, that'd be cool. But we're going to do this. Yeah.
We do have updates, but I wouldn't say they're public yet.
Okay, that's cool.
Sorry.
Well, we could talk about it at the backside or something, but I'm excited about hearing what's going on. As for everybody else, Nick too, let's go ahead and do our ask. My big thing is how can I help your, if you find someone who'd like help with their, supply chain stuff, or just working in their business, and they recognize they've got limits and they want to leverage those limits, then let them talk to me, and we could see if I'm a great fit to help make their physical space and their team development really work I
have two asks, if you don't mind. The one ask I have is possibly to get connected with other social impact entrepreneurs and investors. That's one. The second one is, in the process of me doing some research, I ran into information that says, according to the United Nations, the globally rich is the one that has the most highest carbon footprint, that uses that has the most impact with our global climate change. That uses 97% because they're rich and they have the most money. So how do we think we can get the globally rich to stave off the carbon footprint and reduce their consumption so that we can have them reduce their carbon footprint usage?
Microbial agriculture, urban microbial agriculture. Anyway, keep
I
going.
don't know, right? The globally rich must cut their carbon footprint by 97% to stave off climate change, according to UN, because they are the most who uses a lot of, because they have the most car, the biggest houses, so they are the culprit to having the highest usage and causes our climate change to be increasing because they're rich. And I guess that makes sense. I'm really not surprised, I guess, in finding that information. So how do we get them to reduce their carbon footprint? They have the most money, they have the most disposable income. So
yeah, that's great. Phil.
Yeah, sorry,
Nick.
I just had to get on mute. I've only got one ask. Excuse me, and that is, whilst everybody's enjoying themselves this upcoming season, the holiday period, as they say in the US, we just say Happy Christmas and a Happy New Year. But my ask is, be responsible and stay safe. Stay safe for yourself and stay safe for your family and for your friends.
All right. Nick.
Hola. Hello. Hi. I guess my ask would be along the same route as Annie's, looking for connections to sustainable entrepreneurs and investors. And I'm also, I guess I have two asks. I guess another prompt I would pose is there anybody out there afraid to take the COVID-19 vaccine? That should be a fun topic for later.
I am.
No, I'll take it. I'll take it.
I won't. I'll hold off.
Let's hold off discussing that now. I think that's a good topic. But that's a good question. What was the first one you said too?
About looking for social impact entrepreneurs and investors.
Okay.
That one.
All right. And Joey.
All right, so a lot of good information today. I think my big ask would be, if you guys have questions about what we talked about today, or just I heard some networking asks here. Send me an email, and I'll put my email in the chat. It's just joey@ahcnm.org, and I will find the answers for you. I'll try to find some answers for you. Some more networking groups. We're going to be doing a lot more events as well. But yeah, use the chamber for our resources. There's a lot of procurement opportunities, just a lot of things to help everyone out, a small business, and we would love to just point you in the right direction and get you those resources.
Great. So connect with Hispano, Joey. Great. And I know that, like, my limited view here, I can see that Janet is on, and there was someone else that was chatting around.
Eve was on. I saw Eve earlier. She's still on?
Yeah, that's all right. So I'm gonna close it up then. So connect with Hispano Chamber for some of this stuff, and I ask you guys to come next time, or come in it whenever you like. The next one's gonna be in January 8th. And Mark Masters is going to come back, and he's going to talk about importance of laughter. We won't record the first half of the thing because that's kind of like his meat and potatoes there. But then the latter part of it will be a discussion about laughter and its impact on health and business. So I look forward to seeing you then. And in the meantime, keep the sparks flowing.
Okay, enjoy the holidays, guys. Be
Happy
safe.
holidays. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Thank you as always.
Hey, bye,
You're
everyone.
welcome. Bye-bye, Phil. Bye, Annie.
Bye.
Hmm.